Okay, everybody, Stephen Key here. And once again, I have a very special guest from where? Where do you live, Warren?
Adelaide, Australia, the land of the kangaroos.
Okay, so you're on the other part of the world, but we have something in common, and that's why you're coming on inventRightTV today. You're an inventor, is that correct?
Yeah, I just love inventing. I just love making stuff.
Okay.
And I love making toys because I love working with kids. They always keep me on my toes.
Okay, they do that. But the story today that we're going to tell is kind of interesting because, Warren, you've had a really big hit, haven't you?
I did, and it was I was a guy who was a reclusive guy working out in my backyard shed, and after a while, I had this toy that was we sold in America, we sold in Europe, sold in Australia. I could not believe how successful it was. It astounded me.
Okay, and the name of your toy was called
BetterBlocks.
Okay,
BetterBlocks because we thought they were better.
They were better. But this was a big hit, right? I mean, this was selling everywhere. I remember it now. We're going to show a video on this too. You came up with this idea, you licensed it to a DRTV company, and
Yep.
your life changed, didn't it?
Absolutely changed. I said, I was a reclusive guy working out of his backyard shed, and within 12 months, I was thrust into this successful international business, and I tell you, to be honest, I was kind of way out of my depth at times. I was just way out of my... And this is what attracted me to your program, Stephen, and following you for the years I have, was that, see, I had no one on my side. It was me. Whereas I can see that these days with people like yourself and your program, I could have done it much easier, much more successfully, and it would have just been a whole different ballgame, to be honest.
Well, I don't know. That product was pretty popular. I remember. I don't think it needed any help at all. So let's go back and talk about, and I'm going to talk about your creative process. Everyone, if you're listening to this now, we're going to do a second video on the creative process. I'm giving them a heads up on this, but we'll get to that in a minute. So you come up with this great idea. You're an inventor, and you reach out to this particular company. I think they're in Florida, you told me.
Yeah.
Was it easy to get to them? Because tell me the dates. What are we talking about? Because this goes back a few dates. This goes back a while.
Well, I had the idea in about 1988, right? And it took me a couple of years to build prototypes and do that. And then eventually I found a gentleman called Kelvin Claney who lived in America. And this is the story of how I came across Kelvin. Is that I was talking to my sister's boyfriend at the time. He lived in Sydney, Australia, and he was a cabinet maker, right? Nothing to do with toys, nothing to do with inventing. And I remember John Wilkie said to me, he said, why don't you ring up my mate Kelvin in America? Because he was doing pretty well at direct marketing. So I did. On this offhand comment, I gave Kelvin a phone call, and he was interested. I was in about $100,000 in debt at the time. So what I did is I sold a little bit of my business to fund the trip over there, and it was not so much he liked it, but his wife loved it.
Okay.
And she said to Kelvin, "You got to be in this." And that's where it started from. It was kind of how it started. It started from an offhand comment that changed my life.
Okay. So you built the prototypes. You said you spent some money, I'm sure. What did you show them? Was it probably not a video back then? It was probably just, how did you do a demo?
I just had a box of blocks. They weren't even that good a quality. Because what I did is I built a simple little injection molding machine myself, because I had the workshop to do it. I built some simple tools. And I molded some blocks. They used to take me about a minute to mold every block, and I had about 1,000 blocks. So there was like 1,000 minutes worth of, well, there was more because a lot of them were rejects. So I had these blocks, but the colors didn't come out quite right. But they were good enough to show people the concept.
Okay.
And I just took a box of blocks over to Kelvin and said, "Here, mate, what do you think of these?"
All right. So you went ahead and did a demonstration in front of him. So you flew out there with your box of blocks and did a demo.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a demo, and and Kelvin being a film person, he actually filmed it and he showed a few people.
All right, he captured the magic when you were there, didn't he?
captured the magic. I don't know if magic is quite the word I use, Stephen.
Well,
But
I would. I saw the video. It's pretty magical to watch those blocks kind of they come alive.
actually, true. The blocks do come alive, and that was a good point. But the thing that has kept me going with the blocks, and like I spent over 2 years in Australia trying to find backers here, and no one was interested, but they always loved the blocks. No one ever said anything against the blocks. And it was interesting when I would go and show people the blocks, how they'd pick the blocks up, and 4 or 5 minutes later, they'd still have them in their hands, be playing with them. And I thought, I'm onto something here. I just got to be persistent.
Just be persistent. Isn't that kind of I hear that so often, especially from people that end up making it.
Yeah, and I say that to kids. Like I was fortunate enough to be involved with the children after the success of BetterBlocks and sharing, how I did what I did. And that's the one key thing I said. I said, look, I'm no rocket scientist, so I didn't go to university, but I said I was persistent. And my wife sometimes says, well, actually, I would say you're pig-headed, Warren, but I like persistence.
Well, your wife and my wife have a lot in common, don't they?
I think they do. They put up a lot.
So let's talk about giving some advice here for a minute, okay? Looking back, because I know you're still in it. It's been a few years. Now we're working together. What advice would you give someone now? Because you've been through it. And you and I both know. You have hits, you have misses, you have hills, you have valleys. So how do you get through it?
There was a couple of things. That's a very good question, because there's a couple of things I found, and one of it was persistence, and one of it was to have belief in my product. But what I learned was that, like I said, I was a reclusive guy working out of my backyard shed. I didn't mix with people very well at all. So I put a lot of effort over a lot of years just to increase my ability to communicate my idea. And I would kind of communicate my idea, and it was always with the other person in mind. I tried never to be pushy. I just said, what do you think of this? And kind of try and include them in. But it was really about persistence to keep going. It was just sheer persistence.
Now, I know your wife was telling you, what was she whispering in your ear all the time? Was she saying, this is taking too long, you're spending too much money, when are you going to do something else? Did you ever hear that? Or was she always behind you every step along the way?
Oh, I wish I could say. Well, to be honest, like, she did believe me, but there's certain times of doubt. It's like, Warren, what are you doing? What are you doing? You've persisted, and we spent all this money and time and all the rest of it. But I guess, like, although she had her doubts, like, she still supported me.
Okay.
And then it was a key thing to have a support of and my father supported me as well. He kind of believed in me. Although I think, as you say, that the belief wanes at times, but it's that persistence to keep going,
How important is having that people around you believing? Because I look back and I had many a times where I had doubt, and I somehow went back and read some books that helped me. One was called The Magic of Thinking Big. It was a book that really talked about when you're climbing a mountain to believe, and having people around me. My father-in-law was always there believing in me when everybody else thought I was a little crazy.
Yeah.
So how about you? How important was having people around you that did believe in you? Was that important?
Well, actually, that was. Thank you for bringing that up. I just realised really how important that was, and it was my father. My father always believed in me, and I was, being a reclusive guy, I never used to share my ideas very much, and I was quite selective in who I did share them with, and generally it was people who I thought would have something good to say about them, and not really biased, but at least something good to say about them. And so it was surrounding myself with people who would support me, not blindly have blind faith, but would support me. And like you said about books, I'm an avid book reader, and that The Magic of Thinking Big, I heard you recommend that book, and I bought that book, and I'm halfway through it. It's a very cool book.
Yeah, it helped me, especially on one of my most difficult projects. It was like, I just read those first couple chapters all the time, saying, you can do this. I'm going. Thank you for coming on, Warren. And your product is wonderful. I remember it very, very well. I watched that video again, and it was truly amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. And I really feel honoured to that you invited me to be on. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.